Wilma Jalapeno, assistant to the deputy of urban wellness for the city of Splitsville, stared at the municipal complaint inbox with dark half-moons under her eyes. It was Monday, 6/12, AYEM, and citizens had already logged 487 grievances. Elevator music, too jazzy. Buses smell like existential dread. My neighbor's soy yogurt is passive-aggressively loud. Splitsville had been branded the city that never unclenches, and lately the slogan felt clinically accurate. Wilma's phone buzzed, her boss, Deputy Director Clarence Flabber, demanding fresh ideas for the annual Stress Less Expo, a municipal event designed to keep Splitsville from collectively combusting. Last year's expo had featured scented foam earplugs, a therapy ferret named Suzanne, and a VR experience that simulated deep breathing while you were chased by low-interest mortgage offers. It hadn't helped. Citizens still roller skated into traffic, screaming, "We are all deadlines in human clothing." Wilma rubbed her temples. She needed a miracle. Instead, she found an email from the city's sister municipality, Desert Dazzle, Arizona. "Greetings, Splitsville. We hear you're folksy about stress. We're sending you our best motivational expert, free of charge. Expect arrival Tuesday. Do provide a bucket of water and at least a dozen very large windows. Sincerely, Mayor Marigold Mesa." Wilma assumed the message was spam. Yet Tuesday morning, when she shuffled toward the Splitsville Convention Center, dragging a rolling suitcase filled with herbal teas, she found a double-long flatbed truck idling at the curb. On it stood a colossal saguaro cactus, 30 feet tall, arms outstretched like an emerald referee signaling touchdown. The cactus wore a glittery headset mic. Its surface was festooned with tasteful post-it notes. "You're succulent. Spike your goals. Can't touch this boundaries. Name's Carl," the cactus announced in a voice reminiscent of Morgan Freeman after inhaling a helium balloon. Pedestrians froze. Car horns honked. Somebody filming on a phone screamed, "Influencer content." A construction worker in a hard hat shouted, "Hey, Cactus, you're blocking the bike lane." Carl swiveled. "Friend, I am literally rooted to a truck bed. If you can't navigate around me, perhaps the obstacle is not the cactus but the rigidity of your mindset." The worker blinked, then muttered, "Dang, that's deep," and wheeled away. Wilma gulped. "You're the motivational expert?" "Indeed." Carl Saguaro, CPED Certified Prickly Encourager, Light. "I help wilted souls photosynthesize hope." Wilma, determined not to appear fazed by horticultural theatrics, shook one of Carl's spines like a hand. "Wonderful. The Stress Less Expo is in 3 days. Our citizens are melting down. Think you can handle that?" Carl's arms bowed gracefully. "Stress people are dehydrated greatness. I provide electrolytes of perspective. Now, where shall we set up, and do you have a spray bottle?" "I'm at my best when missed hourly." During the planning meeting, Deputy Director Flabber eyed Carl skeptically. "Is this a joke? We were promised a guru, not a houseplant with delusions of grandeur." Carl responded by clearing his non-existent throat. "Describe your tension in 5 words or fewer." Flabber rolled his eyes but complied. "Budget, emails, deadlines, existential dread." Carl boomed, "Excellent. Now replace each with a cactus-centric positive. Budget becomes botany, let things grow. Emails become pollen, spread ideas lightly. Deadlines, sunrise, inevitable but beautiful. Existential dread, desert vastness. You're just part of a grand panorama. Ta-da! Anxiety rebranded." Flabber blinked, momentarily disarmed. "Well, that's unexpectedly uplifting." Word traveled quickly. By midday, lines snaked around the convention center as residents clamored to unburden themselves to the green giant. Carl kept spouting prickly aphorisms. "Be the camel, not the straw. Needles happen. Don't hug problems. Lean against them stylishly." Each quip was equal parts nonsense and epiphany. People left giggling, scratching newfound insights into their planners. And then came Hank Cornet Honecker, Splitsville's most celebrated corporate attorney, known for yelling at pigeons that dared to flap too audibly. Hank barged in, tie askew, veins pulsing. "Listen here, garden goblin." I have a murder in 19 hours, a spouse who thinks quality time is a spreadsheet, and a fitness watch that calls me slugobbed. Fix me. Carl regarded Hank kindly. Friend, imagine you're in a scorching desert carrying a jug with two holes. One hole leaks negative thoughts, the other begs for hydration. Which do you patch first? Hank shouted, I don't know. Carl beamed. Exactly. Sometimes awareness of a hole is enough to stop the leak. Now exhale your litigation. Inhale lizard sunbathing. Hank inhaled. He exhaled. His pupils dilated as if someone replaced his espresso with chamomile tea. He whispered, I smell warm sand. Then he waddled out, smiling for possibly the first time since the Bush administration. A local news crew captured the moment. That night, Splitsville Live ran a segment. Can this giant cactus cure our chronic angst? Social media exploded, memes proliferated, Carl photoshopped bending skyscrapers into yoga poses, Carl wearing a cape labeled Plant-Nastic Therapist. Twitter, Cactus Clarity trended globally, ironically interrupted by tweets complaining that trending topics were stressful. 3 days later, the Stressless Expo opened. The mayor's keynote speech drew a respectable crowd of 200. Carl's session drew 8,000, plus a line of scooters parked like sardines outside. Fire marshals panicked about occupancy limits until Carl proposed an outdoor arena. The city closed Main Street, erected bleachers, and installed a giant misting fan so Carl wouldn't crisp. Vendors sold cactus-themed smoothies called Spina Coladas. Wilma stood backstage, panicking over her introduction. She'd prepared standard bullet points, native of Sonoran Desert, certified in succulence, but Carl waved a spine in gentle refusal. My dear Wilma, skip the recivid. Introduce me as your mirror with thorns. Let them prick themselves on insight. She stepped to the microphone. Citizens of Splitsville, presenting Your Mirror with Thorns. Cheers shook the asphalt. Carl rolled forward on his flatbed, spotlights washing his ribbed torso in emerald luminescence. He took center stage and breathed. Actually, he didn't have lungs, but the pause felt like a deep inhale. Then he spoke. Fellow carbon units, you hustle in fluorescent terrariums called offices, feeding on digital sandstorms of email. You sprint on hamster wheels labeled achievement while dreaming of napping under the shade of yourselves. Well, who provides that shade? You do. You are the tree you need. Ripples of echoed, as if the crowd collectively discovered cinnamon. Let me tell you my origin story, Carl continued. I was once a seed, spat by a tipsy roadrunner, nothing special. Then a roving motivational tortoise named Cheryl told me, Kid, grow tall enough to slap the sun. I said, Gee, won't that burn? She said, only if you forget your sunscreen of self-belief. So I grew, and here I am, sunburn-free, mic in hand, because I moisturize with purpose. Laughter erupted. Carl's spines vibrated like tiny tuning forks. He pointed an arm at the skyline. Those glass towers, cacti in suits. They stand tall by balancing wind and reflection, yet inside you shrivel, dehydrated by expectation. But let's do a collective mist. Stagehands blasted fine vapor over the audience. People squealed, delighted. Stress slipped off shoulders like confetti. Mobile phone notifications fizzled in the mist. Someone's calendar reminder drowned. Carl lowered his voice to a warm burr. Repeat after me. I am spiky, therefore I am safe. 8,000 voices echoed, I am spiky, therefore I am safe. Now whisper, I am soft on the inside. The hush was intimate as a campfire secret. Good, said Carl. Today you recognize duality. Tough skin, gooey core. Embrace both. If someone calls you prickly, say yes, it's my elegant boundary. If they want your insides, hand them a spoon labeled trust, not a shovel labeled obligatory. Applause roared. Carl shifted topics, weaving jokes about espresso machines as toxic relationships and subway delays as unexpected sabbaticals. He delivered a 3-minute guided visualization where listeners pretended to be tumbleweeds rolling through corporate boardrooms, scattering PowerPoints into joyous chaos. The audience giggled, some openly sobbing from relief. Then, mid-speech, a drone camera zoomed too close, snagging on Carl's spines. The drone spiraled, smoke sputtering, gasps rippled. Carl extended an arm, catching the drone before it crashed onto the crowd. He addressed the operator, a flustered teenager. "Fear not, youthful joystick wrangler. Mistakes happen. Real growth begins when we accept we can't upload do-overs. Now fetch your machine. She's learning to fly with humility." The teen retrieved the battered drone, bowing repeatedly. The crowd cheered louder. Carl resumed. "Lesson, tangles occur, but remember, speeds first, apologies swift, growth immediate." By sunset, Splitsville's collective cortisol had plummeted. Citizens strolled rather than sprinted, traded horns for thumbs up in traffic, and spontaneously gifted each other reusable water bottles shaped like, you guessed it, cacti. Deputy Director Flabber tallied post-expo surveys. 92% reported significant reduction in imminent meltdown. 37% described themselves as thorny in a good way. Even Flabber changed his screensaver from overdue reports to "Sunsets are deadlines in disguise," a Carl original. But bureaucracies seldom bask in success for long. The city council convened an emergency session. Carl is good for morale, but is he zoning compliant? Does he pay plant tax? Can we ensure a 30-foot talking succulent? They summoned Wilma to present options. 1. Deport the cactus. 2. Register him as infrastructure. 3. Silence him with a city-issued muzzle, nicknamed the Chia Gag. Wilma, clutching her new cactus-shaped mug, felt panic returning. She dashed to Carl, who was relaxing outside the convention center under a heat lamp, humming desert lullabies. She explained the council's ultimatum. Carl listened, nodding sagely. Politics, the art of watering only what votes. Don't fret, we shall attend the hearing. The following Tuesday, council chambers overflowed. Some citizens wore cactus costumes, brandishing placards, "We're with Prickly." Others feared municipal chaos. What if all plants start talking? Councilwoman Petunia Farthing cleared her throat. "Mr. Carl, can you prove you add quantifiable value to our city beyond feel-good spiels?" Carl's arms spread wide. "Councilwoman, may I call you Petunia? A fellow plant?" she bristled. "I am not a plant, sir. Yet you share 60% of your DNA with bananas. Biology unites us." Laughter crackled. Petunia reddened. Carl continued. "Quantifiable value. Observe." He gestured to Hank Honecker, waiting nervously in the gallery. "Hank, how's your merger?" Hank stood. "Closed smoothly. I replaced my closing arguments with a mindfulness break." Opposing counsel cried from relief. We hugged. Deal finalized 4 hours early. Both firms donated the saved billable hours to a legal aid charity. Gasps of astonishment. Carl pointed to the construction worker from day one. "Friend, bike lane navigation?" The worker pumped a fist. "I started a lunchtime cycling club. Accidents down 80%. My wife says I've stopped grinding my teeth to sawdust." Carl turned back to the council. "Stress is potholes in the mind. I am municipal mental asphalt. You want numbers? Decrease in ER visits for stress palpitations, 22% since Expo. Increase in citizens taking lunch breaks, 47%. Metric tonnage of spontaneous high fifths, immeasurable. But the vibe is succulent." Reporters typed like caffeinated ferrets. The council members whispered among themselves. Finally, Councilwoman Farthing sighed. "Fine, Carl Saguaro, we hereby grant you status as an honorary citizen/motivational infrastructure, but you must undergo annual inspections to ensure you know stability." Carl dipped an arm. "I bloom under scrutiny." Celebration erupted. Someone handed Carl an official Splitsville baseball cap, size colossal. The crowd streamed into the plaza for an impromptu cactus conga. Wilma watched beaming. Her phone buzzed with texts from job recruiters. Evidently, person who hired giant cactus was a coveted skill set. She turned him down. She had more to learn from photosynthesis. Weeks passed. Carl established the Spine and Shine hotline at 24/7 number citizens could call to hear pre-recorded pep talks. Press 1 if your boss emails you at 2 a.m. Press 2 if you accidentally replied, all a meme of a screaming goat. He visited schools teaching confidence posture by having children pretend their arms were impossible to hug cactus limbs. Bullying incidents dropped dramatically. Kids started greeting insults with the mantra, I'm spiky and safe. One drizzly afternoon, Wilma accompanied Carl to a corporate retreat for the tech giant GigaGadget. GigaGadget's CEO Felicity Fizz had installed nap pods, but employees still treated burnout like an arm wrestling competition. The retreat venue, a glitzy hotel ballroom, featured fluorescent lighting that buzzed like anxious bees. Carl rolled in, employees gasped, some tried to slack about the cactus but their Wi-Fi glitched, an omen, Carl noted, that the universe is saying, unplug or be pricked. Felicity took the stage. Team, here's your keynote. Absorb what you can. Then she promptly fainted into a beanbag, murmuring Q4 deliverables in her sleep. Undeterred, Carl initiated the Great Cactification. He instructed attendees to craft stress flowers by writing worries on origami blooms, then pinning them onto his spines. Let the cactus hold your thorns, you nurture the bloom. By session's end, Carl was a kaleidoscope garden of neon post-its. Imposter syndrome. My code base is a haunted mansion. I forgot my mom's birthday. He invited participants to circle around, chanting, bloom or bust. Then he asked them to take back one flower, just one, and create a doable action in 24 hours. If it worked, they'd add a paper bee to Carl next week. GigaGadget reported record productivity coupled with a 30% decrease in coffee IV drips. The CEO mailed Carl a golden watering can engraved, Our Best Branch Manager. Meanwhile, Splitsville thrived. The mayor rebranded the city, Splitsville where you can't touch this calm. Tourists arrived seeking Carl's spiny wisdom. Local artisans produced cactus plushies that came with miniature stress journals. Even pigeons seemed less harassed. Hank Honecker fed them breadcrumbs every Sunday while reciting Carl's mantra, May your wings flap in synchrony with your heartbeat. Inevitably, though, backlash sprouted like dandelions in sidewalk cracks. A talk show pundit declared, We're coddling citizens with chlorophyll. A delicate war of op-eds ensued. More therapy, fewer thorns, versus prickly times demand prickly mentors. Memes escalated to such intensity that the internet briefly considered a ceasefire to go outside and touch grass, ironically, Carl's ongoing instruction. In response, Carl scheduled a citywide silence. On a sunny Saturday at noon, every participant agreed to stop talking for 2 minutes. No phones, no sighs, just collective stillness. At the 1-minute mark, a toddler squealed, I like turtles, but that only added charm. When the 2 minutes ended, Splitsville erupted in applause so genuine that even the pundits couldn't monetize the moment. Carl addressed reporters afterward. Humor and quiet are siblings. One tickles the noise, the other hugs the space between. My method is simple. Laugh, pause, repeat. You can quote me on that. They did. The quote went viral, although someone misprinted it as lava pause repeat, inadvertently sparking a whimsical dog park trend. Carl chose not to correct them. Adaptation was, after all, a sign of life. Winter approached. Nights grew colder. The city bought Carl a custom-fitted polycarbonate greenhouse on wheels, complete with fairy lights and a solar-powered heater. Inside, he hosted campfireless campfire stories, where citizens gathered to hear tales of desert constellations and talk about their day while toasting imaginary marshmallows. Attendance soared. Stress plummeted further. Therapists reported lighter caseloads but heavier smiles. They'd found a new referral partner, Dr. Carl, honorary PhD in perspective. Then, on New Year's Eve, Splitsville threw the first annual balloon drop of Blahs. Thousands wrote their lingering worries on biodegradable balloons attached to thin strings. At midnight, Carl counted down, 3, 2, 1, let go, and giant fans whooshed, sending balloons skyward. They popped against confetti cannons, releasing wildflower seeds. As petals drifted over downtown, people hugged strangers, screaming, I'm spiky, but I love you. One older gentleman timidly tugged Wilma's sleeve. I haven't felt this light since disco. Wilma smiled, tears glistening. She'd initially wanted a miracle. She'd gotten photosynthetic magic. Later that night, after revelers dispersed, Wilma asked Carl, "What's next? World tour? Moon colony pep talks?" Carl gazed at the stars, his silhouette majestic against city lights. Deserts teach that growth hides in stillness. Maybe Splitsville simply keeps practicing laughter and quiet until stress becomes a visitor, not a roommate. As for me, I'll stay until you no longer need a talking cactus to remind you to breathe. Wilma chuckled. You'll be here a while. Humans forget fast. Carl's spines rustled. Perhaps it was the wind, perhaps amused agreement. Then I shall root in service. But remember, Wilma, I'm not the miracle. I'm a mirror with thorns. Your city found its own humor and hope. My jokes merely pointed them inward. Wilma leaned against the greenhouse wall, feeling its gentle warmth. Point taken, but we'll keep the jokes. The jokes help. Carl winked. Not visibly, but she felt the friendly nudge in her chest. So Splitsville carried on, a little pricklier, a lot kinder, ever guided by a towering cactus whose greatest trick wasn't talking, it was listening so hard that people finally heard themselves. And in a city that once never unclenched, folks began opening like desert flowers at dawn, brightly, briefly, but often enough to remember they were alive.